Welcome back to Meaningful Whispers. Tonight you drift into a story that smells faintly of salt spray and old lacquered wood. You sit here, listening to the slow ticking of time like a temple bell in the dark. Imagine the faint glint of a katana resting in silence, its blade reflecting not glory, but regret. And yes, your ego might not make it through unscathed, because we're about to follow a man who stepped outside the borders of everything he knew, leaving behind honor, duty, and even the meaning of home. So before we dive in, tap that like button and subscribe to Sephoria. Only if these midnight mind voyages truly speak to you. And tell me, where are you now, and what hour curls itself around your thoughts? Let's see how far across the map of consciousness we stretch tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drift backward into time, farther still, until the rigid order of feudal Japan rises around you like a waking dream. The air smells of rice fields after rain. Cherry blossoms fall silently in a courtyard where a lone figure kneels beneath a cedar tree. He is no longer welcome here. His name? It doesn't matter yet. What matters is the silence coiled around him like a serpent. He has disobeyed his master, or perhaps simply been born at the wrong moment in a world that devours loyalty as easily as it praises it. The historians still argue whether he was betrayed or whether his own restless spirit betrayed him. He carries a single blade, sheathed not only in leather, but in the weight of his choices. Jung once wrote, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And what he did was leave. You feel his breath, a slow inhale through clenched teeth. As you breathe with him, notice your own chest rising and falling, the slight coolness of air brushing your throat. He walks quietly to the port, where fishing boats creak like tired bones. The waves have no loyalty. They take whatever they are given. A ship waits. Perhaps it belongs to traders, perhaps to mercenaries. No one knows. What is certain is that it carries him away from the rigid codes of Bushido and towards something he cannot name. At sea, the nights stretch endlessly. The deck smells of fish and damp rope. The sky is so wide it frightens him, because in Japan, the mountains always frame the stars. Here, it feels as if he is falling upward. You can almost hear the slow groan of the hull as it cuts across waters that separate worlds. He sharpens his blade each evening, not because he expects battle, but because it reminds him of who he was. There's a story whispered among sailors of a man who never slept, whose eyes gleamed like moonlight on steel. Perhaps they meant him, perhaps not. That is the thing about legends. They stretch and twist like shadows at dusk. You feel the motion of the waves now. Let your own breath rock gently with that rhythm. Inhale, exhale, a tide within your body. Somewhere deep inside, you know he already understands he will never return. Maybe that is why he carved small patterns into the wooden railing of the ship. Secret symbols from his clan, left for no one to find. And then one morning, a strange new horizon appears. It is not Japan, not even close. Red earth bleeds into endless blue sky. Palms sway like foreign dancers. The coastline of Africa. He steps off the ship, his sandals touching sand that has never known a samurai before. But before that moment of arrival, there is this, an image of him standing at the edge of the deck, staring into the nothing between past and future. For a fleeting second, you feel his heart, not as a warrior, not as an exile, but as a man floating untethered. Nietzsche once mused, man is a rope between beast and overman, a rope over an abyss. And this samurai in his quiet solitude becomes exactly that, a rope over an endless sea. The wind shifts, the sails snap. You can almost taste the change. He closes his eyes, and so do you. For just a breath, you both hover in the soft gray place where regret and hope hold hands. As the African shore grows closer, he touches the hilt of his sword, then lets it rest. For the first time in weeks, he feels something like calm, not peace, but calm. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Feel the story settling deeper into you, like a stone sinking in still water. This is just the beginning. You step with him onto the red earth of Africa. The air is heavier here, almost sweet, filled with scents you can't name. It clings to his robes like a second skin. The shoreline behind him is a pale ribbon of foam, but ahead lies a sprawl of colors so different from the muted grays and greens of Japan. He stands still for a moment, taking it in, not as a warrior assessing a battlefield, but as a man realizing how small his world has been. The locals watch from a distance, curious but cautious. His posture is strange to them, rigid like a coiled spring, yet graceful. He doesn't speak their language, but silence, he finds, is a bridge. He bows slightly the way he always has. A few of them mimic the gesture, half amused, half respectful. There is no immediate hostility, only curiosity. At night, he sits near a fire with the sailors who brought him here. They tell tales he doesn't fully understand. Pirates off the coast, merchants who trade gold for salt, kings who wear robes of bright cloth that shimmer like sunlight. He listens, nods, and stares into the flames. Firelight feels the same everywhere, yet it also feels strange when you're not home. You notice his hand brush the hilt of his sword again. It's not about danger. No, it's about identity. Back in Japan, the sword was more than a weapon. It was his soul, his honor. Here it's just steel, useful, heavy, unremarkable. Historians still argue whether he abandoned the samurai code entirely or carried it like a fading ghost. You wonder too, what do you hold on to when the world you knew dissolves? Breathe with him, inhale slowly as the fire crackles. Exhale as the desert night stretches overhead. The stars here are brighter, sharper, as if the sky has been polished. He looks up at them and feels, for a fleeting moment, unmoored from time itself. In the days that follow, he begins to wander. He trades simple favors for food, mending a fishing net with meticulous hands, showing a boy how to hold a blade of grass just so, to make it whistle like a flute. Music, he realizes, is also a kind of language. There's an odd little anecdote told by elders along this coast, even today. They speak of a quiet man with a sharp smile who once carved a small wooden figure of a bird and left it by a village well. No one knew why. Perhaps it was a gift, perhaps a message, or perhaps he simply missed the cranes of his homeland. As you drift with this story, feel your shoulders lowering with each breath. The tension loosens, like a knot being undone. He travels inland for a while, following a caravan. The landscape shifts into rolling dunes, golden and endless. Sand creeps into everything, into his sandals, his sleeves, even his thoughts. He starts wearing a simple cloth over his head, blending with traders and wanderers. Sometimes he is taken for a mercenary, sometimes a healer, sometimes just another face passing through. Nietzsche's words echo faintly in this moment. The man who has a why can bear almost any how. But what is his why now? Survival? Redemption? Or just the quiet act of moving forward when nothing is left to move toward? One evening, the caravan stops near an oasis. Palms sway gently in the warm breeze, and water reflects the dying light. He kneels and touches the surface. The ripples remind him of home, not in a sharp, aching way, but like a memory fading into dream. He drinks slowly, feeling the coolness spread through him, and for once, his sword remains sheathed. The people he meets along the way give him many names: the Silent Blade, the Wandering One, the Ghost Samurai. Each name is a mirror, reflecting only part of him. You begin to realize that identity is like water too. It shifts shape depending on the vessel it's poured into. Let yourself breathe deeply now, as if tasting that same cool water. Feel your breath soften like silk unraveling. There's a soft, almost ironic humor in this. A man trained to die with honor for a single master is now bowing politely to strangers who cannot even pronounce his name. He could have fought it, but he doesn't. Perhaps exile teaches you humility in a way no temple or battlefield can, and still at night he sharpens his blade, slowly, methodically, not out of fear, but ritual. It reminds him that even far from Japan, he is still himself, or at least a version of himself that has not yet dissolved completely. You drift deeper into the firelight and the hush of desert winds. His journey is only beginning, but already the question hangs like a shadow. Is he searching for something? Or simply running from the echoes of who he was? Let your body sink heavier into stillness. Feel the weight of sand, of silence, of wandering without a map. Ahead, unseen yet inevitable, the African coast will hold more than he expects. Strange friendships, whispered betrayals, and a kind of belonging he didn't know he was capable of. But for now, you both rest by the flickering fire, halfway between worlds. Morning breaks over the African coast with a slow, honeyed light. You watch him rise from his makeshift bedding of woven mats. The air is warm already, but the breeze carries a faint trace of salt. He stands for a moment, still, as if listening for something beyond the chatter of gulls and the distant laughter of fishermen. Perhaps he is listening for Japan, or perhaps for a voice inside himself that has grown quieter with each passing day. He begins to walk inland again. His movements are patient, deliberate, a stark contrast to the quick rhythm of those around him. In this part of the continent, villages bloom like scattered seeds along the edge of the forest. The trees here are massive, ancient, their trunks wide enough to swallow 3 men standing side by side. Their leaves whisper secrets in a tongue he doesn't yet know. In one village, he meets a healer. She is older than she appears, her eyes sharp like obsidian. She studies his face without fear, then gestures for him to sit. She places a hand lightly over his chest, right above his heart, and simply nods. No words. Later, someone tells him she only bothers to look into the hearts of those who are halfway between worlds. It seems she sees something in him. And you, listening, might feel it too. That peculiar sensation of not belonging anywhere. That in-between state where your past no longer holds you, yet the future hasn't claimed you. Take a breath here. Inhale slowly, filling your chest. Exhale with the thought of letting go, even if you don't yet know what you're letting go of. Over time, the samurai begins to pick up fragments of the local language. He learns how to ask for food, how to greet with the right intonation, how to listen without appearing lost. Words are strange to him now, like pebbles turned smooth by water. He doesn't cling to them the way he once did. There's a story whispered among the traders he travels with. They say he once stepped into the path of a charging bull, not to fight it, but simply to stare it down. And the bull, confused or humbled, slowed and turned away. Whether it's true or not, it spreads quickly. Some say it was a trick of posture, a warrior's calm so deep it unnerved the beast. Others say he had no fear left in him, and the bull could feel it. Historians still debate whether such a thing could have happened, but you smile because some truths belong to myth more than to fact. In the evenings, he sits near fires again, but this time the flames are surrounded by songs. The rhythm of drums fills the air, steady and hypnotic. The people dance, their movements fluid, alive. He doesn't join, not yet, but he watches. And for the first time, you notice something soften in his gaze. Perhaps he sees echoes of old festivals back home, the lantern-lit nights when music wound through the streets. Or perhaps he realizes that joy exists even in exile. Remember your breath. Inhale as the drums grow louder in your imagination. Exhale as the music fades into a gentle hum. Let the sound in your mind lull you deeper into this wandering. One night, a young boy hands him a carved mask, painted in bright colors. The boy doesn't explain, he just smiles. The samurai accepts it with both hands, bowing slightly. He doesn't know its meaning, but he keeps it. Later, he will place it next to his sword when he sleeps, as if the two objects belong together. One from his past, one from this strange present. And here comes a soft humor, almost hidden. He once spent years training to defend a single clan's honor, yet now he finds himself teaching a group of children how to fold leaves into tiny boats. The children giggle when the boats float down a shallow stream. He allows himself a rare smile. You can almost hear the quiet thought flicker through his mind. So this is what peace feels like? Nietzsche's words brush by again. Faint as a breeze, he who has a why can bear almost any how. But the why keeps changing, doesn't it? For him, for you, for anyone who has ever lost the ground beneath their feet. The seasons shift slowly along the coast. He notices the air becoming heavier before the rains. He notices the way fishermen's songs change tone with the tides. He notices the quiet resilience of the people, how they laugh even when food is scarce. He learns that survival here isn't about strength alone. It's about community, about bending instead of breaking. One evening, an elder tells him, in halting words, that the sea swallows what it must, but it also gives back. He thinks about that for a long time. Maybe the sea took his homeland, his purpose, his past. But maybe it is also giving something back, something he hasn't yet named. You breathe with him again. This time it's slower, deeper. The body loosens a little more. The edges of thought blur like soft ink on parchment. And slowly, quietly, he begins to be more than just the wandering stranger. He helps mend a broken roof. He carries water for someone too old to walk. He sharpens his blade not just for himself, but for others who might need protection. A bond forms, fragile, but real. There's a phrase whispered in the village now. The silent one is learning to speak without words. And maybe that's what this entire journey is. A lesson in speaking without language, in belonging without claiming. As the section closes, you see him standing at the edge of the sea once more, his sword at his side, the mask in his hand, the horizon glowing in gold, not lost, not found, just here. Let your breath fall into rhythm with the waves. In, out, slow, gentle, and sink deeper into the quiet. The sea grows restless with the changing winds. You watch him linger by its edge, feeling the pull of two worlds, the one he left behind and the one unfolding before him. Nights grow longer now, and with them come dreams. He dreams of temples cloaked in mist, of bamboo forests whispering secrets he can't recall upon waking. And yet, when he opens his eyes, it's the African sky above him, scattered with stars like spilled grains of rice. He begins to travel further along the coastline, guided by traders who know the currents and the rhythms of the villages. Each settlement feels like a verse in a song, similar but subtly different. Some speak with laughter always in their throats. Others speak in measured silences that remind him of home. You feel the weight of his quiet observation, that meditative state where noticing becomes a kind of prayer. There's a story here of another traveler, an Arab merchant, who claims to have seen Japanese sailors in Madagascar long ago. Is it truth, or just the way rumors ripple like water? Historians still argue whether samurai ever ventured so far. But here he is, and you are with him, tracing steps no scholar can fully map. Pause. Inhale gently, as if tasting the salty air of the coast. Exhale slowly, letting your shoulders drop, grounding yourself in this drifting narrative. In one bustling port, he sees ivory laid out like pale ghosts, spices so vivid they stain the air, and fabrics shimmering in colors he's never known. He stands apart, watching the swirl of trade. A Portuguese sailor notices him, squints, and asks in broken words if he's from the islands beyond China. He doesn't answer, not because he can't, but because he doesn't need to. Silence has become his second language, and in that silence, he meets a woman who tends a small garden behind her home. She shows him how to plant yams, how to cut the vines so they regrow stronger. There's no romance here, just quiet companionship, a mutual understanding between two people who've both learned to live outside the boundaries of their birthplaces. You can almost feel his hands in the earth, turning soil that is foreign yet fertile. There's a moment of soft humor, too. One evening, he tries to teach the children how to bow like a samurai. They mimic him poorly, collapsing into laughter, their movements exaggerated and clumsy. He doesn't scold them. He simply bows again, slower this time, and they follow more carefully. But they still giggle, and for the first time in a long while, he chuckles too. "Life is the dancer, and you are the dance," Jung once said. It flickers through your mind now as you picture this displaced warrior moving gently through rhythms he never expected to learn. Another breath, deep, calm. Imagine the sun warming your skin, the soft earth beneath your bare feet, the hum of life all around. Let that sensation carry you deeper into this wandering night. Months pass. He gains a reputation, not as a fighter, but as a man who listens. People seek him out for advice, though he rarely speaks more than a few words. He sharpens tools, repairs what he can, and when someone falls ill, he sits with them quietly. There's a new kind of discipline in him now, one that doesn't require a blade. Yet sometimes the old self surfaces. When a group of raiders threatens a nearby village, he steps forward without hesitation. The confrontation is swift, like lightning cutting through a calm sky. He moves with precision, defending without cruelty. The villagers watch in awe. But when it's over, he doesn't linger on the violence. He returns to his quiet place by the sea as if nothing happened. There's a question lingering in the air. Does he still dream of returning home? Or has the idea of home become something fluid, like the tide itself? Psychologists say humans adapt their sense of belonging when disconnection becomes too prolonged. But they also argue that a piece of the original longing never truly fades. Maybe both are true, maybe neither. At night, he carves small figures from driftwood, shapes that look like birds, or boats, or maybe spirits. He leaves them along the shore, letting the waves take them. It's a ritual without explanation. You can almost hear the soft scrape of his blade on the wood, the sound blending with the hush of the sea. Another breath cue for you. Inhale gently, imagining the scent of wood shavings and sea spray. Exhale even more slowly, releasing any tightness in your chest. One evening, he witnesses a funeral unlike any he has ever seen. The community gathers on the beach, singing as the sun sinks into the horizon. They place offerings into the water, believing the spirits travel across the waves. He stands at the edge, holding the mask the boy once gave him. For a fleeting moment, he wonders if the sea could carry his own spirit back to Japan when his time comes. And there, amid the soft glow of torches and the murmuring crowd, he feels something profound. Not belonging, not exile, something in between, something like acceptance. The African coastline continues to shift beneath his wandering feet, but slowly he realizes he is no longer counting the miles. The sword he once held as an extension of his soul is now just a tool. The mask, once a curiosity, has become a companion. You breathe with him again. The rhythm is steady now. In out, like waves, like the gentle certainty of time passing without asking permission. As the section closes, you see him seated at twilight, carving another small figure. The sky is painted in colors that don't have names in his language. He doesn't try to name them anymore. He simply watches, and you, drifting with him, begin to feel the same, neither lost nor found, just floating in the soft edges of a life reshaped. The nights deepen, and you feel the air grow thicker with humidity, heavy like an unspoken thought. He moves further inland now, away from the constant voice of the ocean, following paths where palm trees stretch skyward like watchful sentinels. The villages here are quieter, the customs different. Some welcome him with cautious curiosity, others avoid his gaze entirely. It's here in this inland silence that he begins to hear whispers of old African kingdoms, empires built on trade, gold, and stories passed from mouth to mouth. A healer tells him of a warrior long ago who came from the east, a man with strange armor who taught sword forms to a forgotten generation. The samurai listens, his eyes calm, but you can sense the flicker of recognition. Could there have been another like him, wandering these same lands centuries before? Or is it just the way legends bend toward mystery? Historians still debate whether Africa ever truly saw the footprints of Japan's warriors, but the myths remain, stubborn and shimmering like heat on the horizon. Pause for a breath. Slow. Let your shoulders feel soft, your spine loosen as if you too are laying down the weight of an unseen blade. He stays with the healer for a time, learning the rhythm of their medicine. Roots boiled into bitter teas, leaves crushed for poultices. It reminds him faintly of the herbal practices back home, but different, tuned to the soil of this continent. He begins to help, passing her tools, grinding plants into pastes. One day she laughs lightly and says he has hands of patience, not war. He doesn't answer, but a faint smile touches his lips. There's an odd little moment when he tries to teach her how to write his name with a stick in the dirt. She watches, fascinated by the flowing brush-like characters. When she imitates them, they twist into something new, part Japanese, part African script, a language that belongs to neither but hints at both. You can almost feel the quiet magic in that exchange, a small bridge between worlds. Nietzsche once said, "All truly great thoughts are conceived by walking." You remember that now as he takes long, meandering walks at dawn, the earth cool beneath his feet, the morning birds crying out in tones he's never heard. These walks seem to untangle something in him. He is no longer searching for a place to belong. He is simply present. Another breath cue for you. Inhale, imagining the crisp scent of morning dew. Exhale, letting go of the restless need for answers. Then one day, he meets a group of travelers, Muslim scholars carrying books wrapped carefully in cloth. They speak of far-off lands, of Mecca, of the vast libraries of Timbuktu. One scholar notices the samurai's sword and asks gently where he is from. The samurai hesitates, then simply says, "Far." There's a quiet understanding between them, a shared acknowledgement of displacement. The scholar shares a story of Ibn Battuta, the great Moroccan traveler who wandered half the known world. The samurai listens, realizing that even the most rooted souls sometimes roam farther than they imagine. You feel the subtle irony there, a warrior trained for loyalty and duty, now living a life that belongs entirely to the open road. And yet, he is not adrift. He has begun to carve a rhythm. Mornings tending to simple work, afternoons in quiet reflection, evenings sitting by the fire, listening to the endless weave of local myths. He's heard tales of sea spirits who lure ships ashore, of ancestral voices that live in the baobab trees. These stories don't clash with his own. They layer upon them, expanding his sense of the unseen. He keeps the boy's mask still, Sometimes he sets it before him, staring at it as if it might speak. It hasn't yet, but somehow it's become his anchor, a reminder of the moment when this journey began. Humor slips through again, softly. One night, a group of children tries to imitate his sword practice using sticks. They end up inventing a completely new style, half playful, half serious, shouting battle cries in a language he doesn't know. He watches them, shaking his head, and for a brief moment, he feels like a ghost of his former self, amused by the echoes of what once defined him. Breath again, gentle, quiet. Imagine your hands resting, palms open, releasing any tension they held. Weeks pass. The healer grows old and falls ill. He sits with her in the evenings, keeping the fire alive, feeding her when she cannot move. Before she passes, she tells him, "Your road has no end, but it has a purpose." He doesn't ask what she means. Some truths don't need to be chased. After her burial, he continues walking inland, the forest thickening around him. He feels the shift of time, not in days, but in seasons. His hair grows longer, streaked with gray now. His face is lined, but not with regret. He's become something beyond the man who stepped off the ship years ago. There's one last encounter in this inland stretch. A musician sits beneath a massive baobab tree, plucking a stringed instrument that hums like distant thunder. The melody carries a strange familiarity, like the shadow of a song he once knew. He sits with the musician for hours, no words exchanged, just listening. And in that music, he feels the two worlds inside him finally quiet. Carl Jung's words surface in your mind. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. You realize that's what he's done, not chosen between home and exile, but simply awakened to what is. Another slow breath cue. Inhale deeply, hold it softly, then let it go, like a drifting leaf on still water. As dusk falls again, he reaches a hill overlooking a vast stretch of land, a sea of green under a fading orange sky. He kneels there, sword resting before him, not as a weapon, but as a memory. For the first time in a long time, he whispers aloud a name, his own, and then, like the breeze, it disappears. He stays there until the stars bloom across the sky, endless and silent, and you, following his steps, feel an unexpected calm in your own wandering thoughts. The coastline returns, not as the place he first arrived, but as a mirror of how far he's come. You drift with him through this final stretch, where the air smells of salt and memory. Waves crash softly, not with the thunder of arrival, but with the hush of understanding. He stands at the edge of the water, gazing toward a horizon that once felt like the barrier between two worlds. Now it feels like a seam, two fabrics stitched together. Behind him lie the forests, the healer's hut, the laughter of children, the quiet songs under baobab trees. Ahead lies the endless ocean, a reminder of the home that still exists somewhere beyond reach. But he doesn't ache for it, not anymore. You let your own breath sink with the tide, inhale as the wave curls inward, exhale as it pulls away. A subtle rhythm. A fisherman approaches him, carrying a net heavy with the day's catch. He offers a piece of dried fish, a simple gesture of hospitality. The samurai accepts, nodding in thanks. There is no need for words. They sit together for a while, two men from different worlds staring at the same ocean. It feels almost comical in its simplicity. After all the years of wandering, the journey resolves in quiet companionship. Here's the historical tether, soft but real. Africans and Japanese first truly documented encounters centuries later in scattered notes by Portuguese sailors and traders. Historians still argue whether a lone samurai could have made this voyage in reality. Was it possible? Or is this just one of those beautiful myths that grow in the gaps of recorded time? like a dream that refuses to fully dissolve. A final sensory cue for you. Feel your eyelids heavy, the muscles around them softening, as if the weight of the day is finally loosening its grip. Night falls, and with it comes a strange clarity. He takes out the mask again, the one the boy gave him. For the first time, he presses it to his face. Through the small eye slits, the world feels framed differently. Less like a place of sharp lines and more like a painting of shadows. He wears it for a moment, then sets it gently on the sand, facing the sea. He walks into the shallows, the cool water brushing his ankles. He doesn't go further. He just stands there feeling the tide wash around him, as if the ocean itself is acknowledging him. Perhaps it is. Perhaps the earth remembers every step you take, even the ones no history book records. A quiet line echoes in your mind, a fragment of Rilke. The only journey is the one within. You realize this wandering samurai's path was never about borders or maps. It was always an inward road, winding through silence, acceptance, and the letting go of what must remain behind. There's one more faint smile from him, an almost imperceptible curve of the lips. He picks up his sword, but it feels lighter now. No longer a weapon, just an extension of his story. He wraps it, sets it down by the mask, and walks away from both. The sea and the sand will keep them. And here's the final moment. He disappears into the dark line of palms, his silhouette melting into the night. No farewell, no grand ending. Just a continuation of a life that has ceased needing definition. You feel the stillness of it, like the last note of a song that fades rather than ends. Pause and let your breath match this stillness. And for you listening now, perhaps you feel something unexpected, a softness in the wandering parts of your own mind. Maybe you think about the places you've traveled in memory, the identities you've worn and shed like masks. Maybe you realize, as he did, that you don't need a destination for a journey to matter. As the waves keep breathing along the shore, you let yourself drift into that same rhythm. The stars above seem infinite, but gentle. Your body feels heavier now, but in a comforting way, as though gravity is guiding you to rest. You whisper, just once, your own name, and like his, it fades into the quiet. So here we are, standing at the quiet edge of a story that refuses to end, because in truth, it was never about an ending. It was about the wandering, about the spaces between certainty and doubt, about a samurai who left one shore, crossed an ocean, and found something he didn't even know he was looking for. You may never walk the sands of an African coastline with a sword at your side. You may never hold a mask carved by unknown hands, but in some way, you have already made journeys like his, across emotions, across relationships, across the landscapes of your own thoughts. The kind of journeys where no map helps, and no single answer waits at the end. And isn't that the strange comfort of it? That sometimes you don't need resolution, you just need the quiet. So take this moment. Breathe in softly, feeling your chest rise like a slow tide. Exhale gently, letting any leftover tension slip away like a retreating wave. The day is over. The night is kind. If your mind is still wandering, that's fine. Let it drift. Let it wander the same way the samurai wandered, without fear, without pressure, without needing to arrive. And as sleep approaches, think of the sea, endless, calm, and patient. Let it rock you into the stillness you've been searching for. Good night, traveler of thoughts.